Hello, my name is Raquel Sanchis. I'm a lecturer in the Department of Business Organization and member of the Research Center on Production Management and Engineering at the Universitat Politécnica de Valencia. And in this presentation, which is part of the Business Continuity Managers Training Platform project, funded by the European Union, best practices related to supply chain resilience will be shown. The learning output of this presentation covers the description of two best practices related to supply chain resilience. The presentation is structured as follows. Firstly, there is an introduction about supply chain resilience. The second and third section describe two best practices related to supply chain resilience to finish in section 4 with the main conclusions. Supply chain resilience is the ability of a supply chain to anticipate, prepare for, respond, and recover from disruptions. The main goal is to ensure that the supply chain can continue to operate smoothly, even in the face of unexpected challenges. For this reason, the implementation of best practices can support the enhancement of the supply chain resilience capacity. Each supply chain needs a creative and customized process to develop roadmaps. While it's true that a perfect system or supply chain can never be designed as surprises will always occur, knowing how systems behave and understanding the possible implications when facing major disruption could help mitigate the impacts of any disruption. The first step to develop a roadmap is focused on supply chain exploration. To gain a comprehensive understanding of the current state and dynamics of the supply chain. This stage involves defining the supply chain and the environment in which it operates. The exploration should include supply chain mapping, which captures the environment's essence and allows the representation of the current state of the supply chain. The following stage of scenario development tries to anticipate and analyze potential disruptions and challenges that could impact the supply chain. Scenario development involves creating probable future scenarios that could pose risk to the supply chain. These scenarios help decision makers assess the potential impact of various disruptions, such as natural disasters, geopolitical events, or economic crises. This stage is one of the most complex, as it requires the participation of the cross-disciplinary team and includes several steps before the scenarios to be analyzed are defined. Once the scenarios are defined, they need to be examined. Depending on the organization, different approaches could be used. However, consideration of the dependencies and the interconnectivity among the supply network and the environment needs to be carried out. It would be useful to have performance metrics and a safe environment to visualize the impacts and the evolution of each scenario. It's also relevant to consider the possible adaptation of the supply chain network structure. Different research methodologies can be used to analyze the systems when facing major disruptions, such as mathematical optimization, simulation, and control theory. The following stage objective is to formulate strategies that enhance the resilience of the supply chains. Decision makers work on defining specific strategies and tactics to address the vulnerabilities identified during the exploration, scenario development, and system analysis stages. Strategies may include diversifying suppliers, creating redundancy in critical processes, and implementing technology solutions to improve visibility and responsiveness. The following stage involves the roadmap development. The roadmaps will help organize the flow of actions if a significant disruption happened. A roadmap contains a set of directions to follow according to the drills performed throughout the what-if scenarios developed during the previous stages. The distribution of roadmaps among stakeholders is critical because all key decision makers need to understand how strategies in each roadmap are to be adapted. Finally, it's worth mentioning that situational awareness is needed to keep the roadmaps updated. Trends in internal and external data that show changing environments must be monitored and evaluated to modify the scenario settings and the impact on existing roadmaps. A scanning library needs to be created to collect and store signals employed to examine updated scenarios and identify when disruptions is starting to occur. In our increasingly digital world, it is perhaps unsurprising that cyber attacks have become one of the leading supply chain vulnerabilities. This second best practice is related to cybersecurity. In 2018, supplier of Airbus, one of the world's largest airliner manufacturers, were subject to a series of cyber attacks in which hackers gained access to classified documents containing schematics for military transport planes and passenger jets. What should we do to face cyber attacks? Here, there are some actions related to cybersecurity, such as regularly update software and system, use strong, unique passwords, and avoid using the same password across multiple accounts. Enable multi-factor authentication to add an extra layer of security. Educate and train employees to conduct cybersecurity awareness. Regularly backup data. Implement network firewalls and intrusion detection systems to control incoming and outgoing network traffic. Encrypt sensitive data to protect it. More actions to improve the cybersecurity are: conduct regular security audits to identify and address vulnerabilities before they can be exploited. Monitor and analyze log files to detect and respond to potential security incidents. Limit user access and permissions. Secure physical access. Develop an incident response plan to quickly and effectively respond to secure incidents and minimize potential damage. Regularly test and update incident response plans to ensure they remain effective. Secure mobile devices. And finally, collaborate and share threat intelligence to stay informed about emerging threats and vulnerabilities. As a conclusion, it is worth mentioning that the first best practice is focused on supply chain resilience roadmap, that is a structured approach to identify vulnerabilities, assess risk, and implement measures to mitigate the impact of disruptions. The roadmap typically includes a series of initiatives, actions, and investments aimed at building a more robust and adaptable supply chain. The second best practice is related to cybersecurity, that is a dynamic field, and it's essential for being informed about the latest threats and best practices to adapt your supply chain security measures accordingly. And with the references of this learning material, the presentation is finished. Thank you very much for your attention.